How's it going, everyone? Kenny from Team Moistar here, and today I'm going to be going over a couple of ways to play Banette EX. This will be the first post-rotation deck profile with Scarlet and Violet. I know quite a few of people have been trying out Banette EX, and I have three different ways you could play it with three different play styles. So without further ado, before you watch the video, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, or I will literally take your Mr. Beast bars. Alright, so to begin with, we have my first initial thought when I saw Banette, only because I remember Seismitoad EX Decidueye back in the day, was Banette EX Inteleon. So Banette EX, for those who don't know, for a single Psychic Energy, does 30 damage, and your opponent can't play any item cards from their hand during their next turn, which is pretty insane. We've seen item lock throughout the entirety of the Pokemon TCG. Right now, the most dominant deck is Vikavolt V. So, of course, Banette EX is going to be something we're looking at, especially with something as supportive as the Shuppet itself, flipping a coin if heads, preventing your opponent from playing trainer cards as well. You can get it as early as turn 1 like you do with Vikavolt. We do also play one Puppet offering Banette, which you throw the Banette and the Shuppet into the Lost Zone and take a supporter card out of your discard pile. It's pretty good for consistency. Of course, when you open it, it's not, but it's cool otherwise. But the main core of the engine is an Inteleon line, so you set up math to where you could knock Pokemon back going into your turn, or start chipping away and then Inteleon on your opponent's board. It's kind of one of those decks, and a card that kind of was like an oversight at first was Radiant Alakazam, but it's one of those cards where it's it could be okay, but if you're quick shooting, you're just not taking the knockout anyway, most likely. But I think Radiant Alakazam could be pretty interesting in this deck. We play the 2-1 Drapion to deal with Mew, and Drapion V-Star has its V-Star ability, Hazard Star, which paralyzes and poisons your opponent's active, and in between turns, you put 40 with in poison. So it's really interesting to get that paralysis and poison, and then the lock. It reminds me of Trevenant Excelgor, even though it is the one turn that is raking up a lot of damage, especially under item lock. We play a 2-2 Bibarel, of course, at the bench barrier Bidoof. Aside from that, we play 4 Irida to grab your Inteleon post rare candy, 3 Judge for draw consistency shuffle-wise, and to disrupt your opponent, 2 Boss to drag stuff up, and 4s of pretty much all the ball cards except for Nest Ball. Also 3 copies of Capturing Aroma, which is starting to see play recently. 3 copies of Rare Candy to just go Rare Candy Inteleon. 3 copies of Switch to not get stuck with Bibarel, because I believe Bibarel and Drapion are the only 2 Pokemon with a higher retreat cost of 1 in this deck. 1 Lost Vacuum to get rid of a path on a crucial turn, and other pesky stadium cards that could be really annoying. 2 Choice Belts and 7 Psychic Energy. So that's just one way. Let's move on to the second one, which is the Gardevoir way. So this one relies mainly on Klefki and Banette disrupting your opponent while you set up a consistent Gardevoir engine on the bench, to then just go into something like Celebration, Zacian V to clean up against your opponent after the Banette takes a big knockout with its attack Poltergeist, which for 2 Psychic Energy, or 1 Psychic and 1 colorless, your opponent reveals their hand and does 60 times for each trainer card. So that does include, I believe, Pokemon tools, stadiums, and item cards, of course. So you get the lockout with Klefki, and if your board isn't fully established by the second, third turn, Banette will come up directly after the Klefki and just start going ham on item lock, which is pretty insane to think about that something like this could exist. Of course, we added research in this list so you could go and dig a little bit further. Zacian V has an ability to where once during your turn, you search your deck for a Psychic Energy and throw it on one of your Pokemon, but your turn ends, and then Sword Slash, or some effect like that. It does Storm Sword. It does 60 plus 30 for each Psychic Energy attached to this Pokemon, so it hits for a lot of damage. If there are 10 energies on there, it's pretty much lights out for your opponent. And then 4 of pretty much all the search cards except for level Nest Ball. Because we are playing a Kirlia engine without the Mirage step, we are going to need to find our basic Pokemon way quicker than possible. The only Pokemon that you cannot grab that are basic stuff of Level Ball is Zacian and Drapion. Otherwise, everything is Level Ball searchable. Hence is my justification for it. You could also justify more Nest Ball over Level Ball, but Level Ball gets you 2 different searches and getting also Kirlia. And I believe, yeah, it's just a Kirlia. But the Kirlia is like really, really important. Nest Ball can just not get you exactly where you need to be after the turn 1, turn 2. And then I played the Stadium card Mezagoza. Mezagoza is you flip a coin once during either player's turn, and if heads, you search your deck for a Pokemon, which I think is pretty cool for consistency purposes in this deck. Hence is why I'm not too stressed about having 4 Nest Balls, but you could make the justification of going to 4 Nest Ball because I have 2 Mezagozas and go down to 2 Level Balls, but I just think getting out Kirlia and your basic Pokemon is really good. Going into the last variant is more of the disruption heavy deck. I saw a list similar to what I was playing after I had built this, like, float around Twitter, and I was like, okay, this makes sense. This is my original draft of the list. I don't remember who exactly posted their Banette disruption list, but I know it had like it was very similar to this one, but then there was also another one that had like 4 copies of Team Stargrunt, which puts a energy from your opponent's active on top of their deck, which is also very interesting, but also very, very underwhelming. My list, however, focuses on just being the biggest goober you can. Just completely and utterly shutting down your opponent, opening turn 1 with either Klefki or Shuppet to potentially item lock, and then get the item lock going from there. You have access to 4 Crushing Hammers, 2 Fan of Waves, just so you could disrupt your opponent in any possible way you can. You also have access to Old Cemetery, which deals damage while you are already item locking them and dealing damage to them. Of course, if you play against a deck that shuffles from the deck, it does get problematic, so you could argue playing Path, but then you have no path out against Mew for when you need to use one of your 2, if not both of your Drapion, because Mew is a very, very bad matchup for this deck, because Mew goes a lot faster than you. Aside from that, the list is extremely consistent. You'll see this is the only list I play 4 Nest Balls in, just because I feel like this kind of build, you want to rush everything. If you don't rush everything, you pretty much lose. But I thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe and like for more content. If you want to see any more decks moving forward into post rotation, let us know in the comment section below. In other words, see everybody later.